could vampire movies be finally making a comeback? Maybe? Last Voyage of the Demeter is a brand new 2023 horror film directed by Andre Overdahl, starring Corey Hawkins, Liam Cunningham, and David Dastmalchian. Unfortunately, this movie was the victim of very poor marketing. There's a lot of people I know and a lot of film reviewers that I follow that weren't aware of this movie until like last week when it was coming out, and luckily I knew about it. I'd seen the trailer multiple times. My local theater played it in front of almost every movie I went to go see that wasn't a kid's movie. So yeah, I was interested in this movie. Really great year for Dracula fans. We got Renfield earlier this year, which was more of a comedy take. And now we're getting this, which is definitely a horror take. So, yeah, let's go ahead and start this review off with the good. And I had a lot of fun with this movie. Some people aren't really liking it as much, but I wonder if we watched the same movie, because this movie was honestly kind of badass, and I really enjoyed it. First of all, great performances. Corey Hawkins in this movie. He's kind of the main character. He's the main focus of this film. I am familiar with him as an actor. I saw him in The Heights back in 2021. And before that, he was also in Kong Skull Island and Straight Outta Compton. He was great in all three of those movies. So I really enjoyed his performance here. Really great character to follow throughout this film. Really fun character to latch on to. And then you have Liam Cunningham, and he's the captain of this ship. And he's really great as well. He probably gives my favorite performance in the movie. He starts out as just, your typical boat captain, but there's some scenes in the movie which require him to be emotional, and he really sells those scenes very well. And finally, you have David Dastmalchian in this movie, and this guy's just having a great run of it lately. I mean, ever since his role in the Suicide Squad, he's just been getting a lot of attention from more directors and projects now. Because before the Suicide Squad, he was kind of just a background character actor. He was in Prisoners, The Dark Knight, a couple episodes of The Flash. He was in the first two Ant-Man movies. But I feel like the Suicide Squad really launched him into a bigger starring role type actor. And it's really great seeing him in this movie as more of a hard ass than the typical timid type that he played in the Suicide Squad. Really great performance from him. I really want to see him in more things from now on. And then you also have the portrayal in this movie of Dracula. And I really enjoyed this portrayal of Dracula. Javier Botet does the performance, the physical performance as Dracula. And I feel like he does a really great job as Dracula. There's a really nice mix of practical effects and CGI effects. I feel like complements the character very, very well. And this particular design of Dracula, I wasn't so sure about at first, but then you get a little bit of an explanation in the movie as to why he looks the way he does. They explain that he's not a man with monster powers. He's a monster that takes the form of a man. So when he's on a boat on the open sea and he's not having to blend into society, it makes sense that he takes a more monstrous form. I just really enjoyed that whole explanation and that take on the Dracula character. And the story is really simple. It's Dracula on a boat picking people off. It's based off of a chapter from the Dracula book. In fact, I believe it might be the shortest chapter of the book, but nonetheless, it was a really great exploration of that chapter in the book, and I really enjoyed how everything plays out. And by the time the third act rolls around, you get some really great action sets, and I really love the whole claustrophobic feeling of the boat. And aside from just being a badass horror film, there's also some emotion to it. There's actually some really sad scenes here. And even going into this movie, knowing what's going to happen, you still get some emotion out of some of these characters' deaths. And great atmosphere as well, great camera work. I really, really love the cinematography. It's absolutely gorgeous here. And the gore effects are really great as well. And on top of that, you get a really great score to complement this film. Just really, really great. That's about all for the good. On to the bad. And there's a couple things that do drag this movie down a little bit. First of all, I feel like it is a little bit too long. You probably could have shaved about 10-15 minutes off and it still would have been just as good. And then aside from that, you also get some of the characters in this movie. They're clearly disposable, but that's just to be expected from your typical horror film. But that's about all for the bad. On to the final thoughts. I really enjoyed this movie. Out of the two Dracula movies this year, I still prefer Renfield just a little bit, but that's my Nick Cage bias. But Last Voyage of the Demeter is an absolutely terrific take on the Dracula mythos. I will be buying it on Blu-ray, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So that was my thoughts on Last Voyage of the Demeter. Have you seen this movie? Let me know down in the comments what you thought about it if you have. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.